the word I got over our season, I had dreams about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was crowned.
All I know is if that God has served us any indication of over this last year of what
Yeah.
He wants to do for the future,
Yes.
that our future, man, it looks so bright. And I believe that our best days are still ahead, you guys. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited. So I don't know about you, but I believe that that deserves a cheers.
Come on.
To all that the year has ahead.
2020, baby.
Closed, canceled, and confined.
Go home and stay home.
Stay home.
Stay at home.
Stay home.
Stay home. Canadians can do that by staying home.
I've declared a state of emergency
To slow the spread of COVID-19.
Churches have now been ordered to close, all of them.
Churches, big and small, were empty on this Palm Sunday.
It has been the summer of protest.
Protesters out today over the killing of George Floyd.
Record-setting job losses here in Canada.
Record hospitalizations now.
The latest on the coronavirus emergency.
We lost 1 million jobs in March. 1 million jobs.
Levels of anxiety and depression are up. Unprecedented amount of unemployment applications.
Unprecedented.
with an unprecedented
Unprecedented wildfires.
An unprecedented level.
Unprecedented spike in drug deaths.
Unprecedented situation.
an unprecedented time.
This is cool. Oh, this is so nice.
That's wicked.
Wait, am I going to the right place? Yeah. Okay. This is so crazy. All right, ready as ever. Oops, my phone.
Colin,
How's things? How you feeling?
Good.
feeling fantastic,
Feeling good. Like I should.
feeling blessed.
Never stressed in Jesus' name
Yeah.
with 4 children.
Willard, why don't we start with this? What's it, just kind of reflecting on things, what's it been like pastoring in 2020?
Oh, that's a loaded question, isn't it? Who's starting? Who's...
Run for the hills.
It's okay, sorry, we'll do it
Yeah,
again.
let's do this again.
Start over.
So what about last year?
Yeah.
We had crowned as the theme for the year.
Yeah.
Like, has the meaning of that changed for you guys?
I've had lots of time to think about
We've
it.
had a lot of time, but also now I understand, oh, this is why we declared Psalm 65:11.
Yeah.
It's like even the hard paths will drip with abundance. The meaning hasn't changed. I think there's been a lot of clarity around it. Corona actually means crowned.
Yeah, it means crowned. We
means
didn't have,
crowned,
I had
yeah.
no idea that
Yep.
was the case. And so I think that for us, declaring that word at the beginning of the year, when we saw obviously the theme of the world kind of take place and start to come out with that would be the word that would kind of shape the year.
Yeah.
I think that both of us were kind of like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I feel
You know,
like it's even the hard paths will drip with abundance. And I think a lot of us like to overlook the hard paths, and we want to underscore the abundance.
And the goodness.
Yeah, and I believe that we're living in the abundance because of the hard. Sometimes it's because you walk down that difficult road. You discovered something in God that you would never have discovered unless you ventured down this road. And I believe many of us are discovering parts of God that we would never have dug deep to discover unless we encountered 2020, unless we walk through this year personally and collectively as a church. So, yeah.
And even these challenging times, I think that we need to take, this is why it's more meaningful than ever to me. God has mysterious ways that often looks like a setback when it's often a setup. So while you're experiencing the setback and you feel like you're being pulled backwards and feel like things are getting stripped away, oftentimes that's when God reveals himself the most. Like I always say to people, Christ does his best work in crisis. And I think that is exactly what we're going to see and recognize in this season. And while it may look, I guess, at first glance, at like the goodness of God, like there's a year crowned with the goodness of God, I think that some people might scoff at that.
Right.
But I think that by the end of it, it's like if it's not good yet, it just means that God's not done yet.
That's right.
And so therefore, I think that we're just in process, and the promise is in process.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to keep our hopes up and stay faith-filled for the days and the weeks and the months to come, because I feel like by the end of this year, something's going to switch and shift, and we're going to come into like abundance, just like the Word of God declared. And we're all going to look at each other going, Wow, and I think we're going to stand in awe of what God has done.
Oh man, ow!
You just shut the door on your foot.
On my nice boots.
Ooh. Come on, somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Hashtag preacher sneaker.
Oh, hardly. But I do love these boots. They're the only shoes I preach in. So I actually need another pair because the Bible says that beautiful are the feet of the one who brings good news.
Yeah, come on. So you got to make sure your feet look good.
You do.
You know what I'm saying? That was fun.
Oh, so fun.
Honestly,
I loved the conversation.
Yeah, great conversation. For sure.
Yeah, super
I think
fun.
we got pretty much everything, yeah?
I think so.
Except, actually, one thing we didn't talk about, though, is we didn't talk about the whole Steve Penny, trauma word from October.
Oh my gosh.
Are we going to need to talk about that?
The trauma word,
yeah,
of course.
If we can, let's do it.
That was a moment. I think honestly everyone would probably remember the emotion in the room.
Yeah, it was like a hush came over the whole church.
There's going to be in Canada, how else can I say this, but a trauma. And the church will rise up in prayer and compassion. And that which could have ripped the hearts of the people asunder, God's going to allow the church to mend the hearts of the people. And the attention of your nation will turn to the church and say, those people rose up in a difficult day and became a blessing to our nation. And it'll cause a change in the attitudes of the people across this nation. I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. I'm not telling you doom and gloom. I'm telling you God turns all things around for good. I just feel so stirred. I feel so emotional as I look at you and I see the incredible potential that's on this group of people. And all I want to declare over you is make a comeback and do it often. And whenever you fail, come back. Whenever you're rejected, come back. Whenever you fall in temptation, come back. And here's the words: if you'll come back, your joy will be full. I never want this church to lose the sound of joy, rejoicing, and laughter in the house. It's one of your hallmarks. And make sure you never lose that.
Yeah.
And the whole room was like, hold up, wait a minute. Are you prophesying from the wrong mountain?
What did you guys do about that?
That was, gosh, I feel like, though it was heavy, he was specific to say, this isn't doom and gloom.
Yeah.
It was like he was giving us our directives as the church.
Yeah, and saying this is what's coming. It's like it was an encouragement to say.
It was.
What I actually took from it was like, no, I'm just giving you foreknowledge of what is about to come.
Yeah.
And really, it informed us about what our role and responsibilities ought to be as the church.
Yeah.
It says you're going to rise up with a spirit of compassion. You're really going to overturn how many people have kind of had disdain and kind of an attitude toward the church. You're going to overturn and kind of
shift.
Shift that perspective or the misconceptions that people have held toward the church.
Yeah.
They're going to redeem that and show them who you are. And to me, I actually took great encouragement from that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like it gave us our marching orders. So when the world shut down and when quarantine hit and the lockdown hit and coronavirus, we went, this is that, and we know our role. Exactly. It's like now we know what to do, but it was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that's now comes the challenge of going, okay, well wait, if we're locked down and we're restricted to our own homes and we're not able to be around other people of different bubbles or family, how do we actually outwork this word now? And I think that was kind of
from an arm's length or more. I mean, not seeing people for weeks on end, not being able to pastor our church up close and personal.
Yeah, so that really posed the problem, or could I say the opportunity and challenge of how we were going to work that.
Yeah.
Feel really like God in this season is having you espouse new pursuits.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, I see a TV opportunity, and I see like this, even like a set and social media. There's going to be like ministers of social media through your operation. And I literally see like directors and film directors in a literally like a media center. It's going to house all of the arts. It's not going to be just one. I saw like studios and different things, and and just like what I just talked about, media and things. There's people they call, and I feel like you're going to see this too in the next season. And the Lord said this is just told me, this is a road marker. He said the news is going to call you and want you to appear on TV. And I went back, and the Lord told me, He's like, you've been set up for this day and this season, this period.
Of course, gotta clear my throat.
Of course, that's your signature. All right, it's hot seat time, Colin.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Pastor Caleb and Julia have been talking a lot about, God speaking to us, giving us words for this season. Tell me, have there been any road markers, any significant moments where that kind of confirmed, like, okay, yes, God definitely is speaking. We're exactly on track. We're where we need to be.
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot. I mean, even coming into this whole beginning of the year, I keep thinking about this one Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and Pastor Caleb comes into the office just like a normal day. He's like, hey, I got this email from Pastor Steve Penny. He was saying in it that we shouldn't forget TV. That we need to not forget TV. He's like, man, we got to be faithful to this word. We got to buy some camera gear. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll schedule a time and we'll find a time, pick up some gear or something. He's like, no, we need to go right now. Like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we go over to Henry's, one of the video shops, bought a camera and some gear, some lighting, and we come back and we're kind of playing around with it and thinking yeah, this is great. We'll eventually start doing some stuff. It was the first kind of DSLR camera that we bought as a church. And little did we know that the very next week, everything would be locked down. And the city had barely any inventory of cameras, of the gear that we would have needed. And had we not bought the stuff when we bought it, we wouldn't have actually had what we needed to even make church happen that coming Sunday. And to me, that just marked it, where it's the power of kind of a word from God, stepping in on it. And the timing of that, I think, is you can't make that timing up. I think it takes a lot to chalk that up to coincidence, that we got that word, we acted on it, and then all of a sudden we had exactly what we needed to make church happen. And then coming into that, we kept kind of doing our thing, finding our stride when it came to doing church online. Even coming into Easter was a crazy moment. I remember Caleb, I think it was the week leading up to Easter, he FaceTimes me this one day. He's like, look, I've got this feeling. We had that word from Stephen Sorby. The news is going to mark this next season. I think that we're in it. It's I think the news is going to call us this week. And so I'm thinking okay, sure. Yeah, maybe. And so I didn't really think too much of it. And so he kind of says that. We jump into All Team, have an awesome Easter service. And then I get a FaceTime after the service.
COVID-19 has forced churches to go digital using video conferencing platforms like Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook.
The symbol of our faith is a cross.
Pairing that with an uplifting message of unity.
This is how we just really spoken, obviously, in the context of the pandemic, and really trying to bring peace into people's homes.
And compassion and empathy. Church service isn't the only thing that's looking on.
And yeah, that happened. It's the fact that it happened when it happened. It's yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, to see what God's done and the words that He's spoken and how He's orchestrated everything, brought everything together in a season nobody knew was going to happen, that nobody could have planned for. And to see God's word in and through it at every step, just kind of giving us the next step, the next thing that we need, to me, it gives me great confidence for the future, and to go, hey, whatever words He's spoken, we can have a whole lot of hope and confidence about the future and what God's about to say next.
All right, it's coffee time, y'all.
Always. Isn't it always?
It's time to do this. Colin, what are you having today?
Can you do a flat white?
A flat white? I can try my best.
You can do the art too, right? You can do like the flowers and the dove or whatever it is.
The swan.
Swan, yeah.
He's been working on a swan. What was you did like a mix. It was a mix between a swan
At Thanksgiving,
and a duck.
I basically did a turkey. Ask me if I did it on purpose. Ask me if I did it on purpose.
It wasn't on purpose. That was definitely it's a turkey. But it worked for the season.
10 p.m.
There we go. We got a brilliant little shot here.
Late night.
Now.
No, that's an average night. Okay. Yeah, average night, 10 p.m.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
So I'm not quite on seniors hours, but I'm dancing.
Colin, you are a senior hour kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's just an old soul.
I'm a 63-year-old man trapped in a.
How old are you?
A 31. It took me a second. It's like, wait.
You're like, wait. You know, there's 3 ways to know you're getting old, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The first one is you start to forget things, and I can't remember the other two.
Oh my God.
Hey!
Wow.
Are you ready for this? We'll see the Caleb Davidson action here.
Authentic. And I always have my hair all done, full makeup, in the middle of the day. That's how I wake up, you guys.
There you go, bro.
Oh, wow.
So you're the only
Thank
one
you very
drinking
much.
coffee. Is that what's happening?
I don't know. You're not going to have one?
No. I would be awake so long. I would do maybe a chai.
Check out the.
Like you know.
You should rate that on the chat.
That's really
pretty good.
Great
serious moment. No, but like obviously we've talked about like over this last bit about like the words and what God's been saying, but coming into your heart and soul, like us now giving and investing into this next year, like what are we believing for? What are the plans for this coming year?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's time to gather again.
Getting back together again.
We need to get back together. We need to, you know, maybe not rub shoulders, but we need to be in one room together where we're, you know, building forward together. Don't you think this is a time to
I think there's something that happens when you're physically together. Your faith, there's so much borrowed faith from one another. It's like an embers coming together around a fire. It just creates, you know,
a synergy, a faith, expectancy.
And obviously, I'm obviously incredibly grateful. I'm not here to diminish the fact that we've been able to meet virtually or digitally, whatever you want to say. I think it's been an incredible season for that.
Yeah.
But getting back together physically, I think cannot be understated. That is obviously our first and primary goal, is to see things, you know, go back to normal, because this is not normal. And so everyone's like, new normal, normal. No, this is just not normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're physically together in a venue and you're rubbing shoulders 2-3 times a week, you're able to see one another, you're able to read the room, say, hey, I can see that you're not doing well, how are you doing? Whereas now it takes intentionality of, obviously, and this is not to say that we wouldn't strive to do this, but we're phoning people, our pastoral teams have been amped up on another level now to ensure that, hey, we're doing well, we're checking in, we're reaching out, we're making sure that people are doing well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a focus of ours right now, but obviously, meeting together physically enables that to another level, is all we're saying.
Totally.
The other things we're dreaming about is obviously not just the gathering together, but equally some of the certain initiatives that we've endeavored upon. I think that media is going to be a massive, you know, tool, obviously.
Double down on,
you might look at me and go, duh, you know, like, no way, you know. But I think that media has been a massive point of what we're doing in this season. Obviously, it was prophesied before the season that TV, ministers of social media, film and directors, you know, and producers, helping produce shows. I think that what we're looking to do is really, obviously we've come into this season, I feel like we've in so many ways put our pants on, right? But I feel like now we're reimagining how we could take what we're doing and the platforms we have now to broadcast what God is saying to another level.
Yeah.
You know? I know that you've mentioned
That's where everybody is.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. I mean, that's where I am. It's been more than ever, more than I'd like to admit, actually. I have been on social platforms, YouTube, Netflix, you know, who knows if we'll end up there one day.
Right, come on.
Let's dream. But I just, you know, I just want to be where the people are, just like Ariel.
Nice.
break out into song.
That was a great.
But it's true.
No, break into song. I want to hear it. Everybody wants to see that.
Okay, I need the spoon.
Oh, we missed the
I
spoon.
wanna be where the people are. I wanna see them dancing, strolling along down those. What's that word again? Street.
Wow, this is incredible.
In your fins,
I'm
you
so.
don't get too far. Glad you married me.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, but this is the online social platforms.
Just a normal
We'll
Tuesday.
segue. This is what we do. But that is where everybody is. This is where people are living, and more than ever, this is where people are. And
I've heard all kinds of people too.
There.
They're talking like, oh man, screen fatigue. People don't want to be on screens anymore.
They're not.
I'm like, well, not necessarily. People are on it more than ever.
Yeah.
So I just think it's about us reimagining how we are curating our content, how we're presenting it. And so I think we're coming up with creative ways. Our church has always been creative. I think that we're coming up with and reimagining some greater methods, creativity, and how we can go about presenting what we do in that forum. And so social media platforms, we're looking to put all our content on there and looking to have great conversations and take how we produce things to another level.
We've done the preaching and we'll continue to preach and teach always, but people consume online differently, and I think we can elevate how we are bringing the message of the gospel to people's
the core tenets
lives.
of what we always do would still be very much shining through, but it's just, again, packaging.
Yeah,
so
I think we're not going back to just gathering. It's gathering and
a whole new stream.
And really, I think it's going to have the classic My Church fingerprint on it. You know? And I think that everybody who's been around a while knows, like, when My Church does something, we're going to do it with all our heart. You know, and so I think that what we're re-envisioning
a whole lot of fun
and kind of reimagining,
randomness and humor and
so obviously the gathering physically is still very much paramount and primary in our focus. But knowing as well that we're probably never going to graduate from the digital platform now. This is where a lot of people are nowadays. And I think that if the Apostle Paul were around still,
oh gosh, he'd be pumped.
That's it. And it's had such a great reach. It's a little bit like, wow.
And it's just the beginning.
You know, to see the reach and how it crosses certain borders and enters into homes and computers and phones that we never thought of. All I'm saying is that I think that the greater church at large has been hesitant to maybe jump in as a whole into that platform. I think though that hope needs to live on those platforms. Light needs to shine in those platforms, and I think it's the greatest hour for the church to have that endeavor. So gathering, media, our music, since you mentioned that, will be a massive piece.
Music, I said on one of the last weekends, maybe it was the last weekend, where we gathered, live all together. We had no idea it was the last one, and I felt right at the end to kind of bring a charge to our creative teams to say, hey, permission to write. It's time to create.
I know, that was wild timing.
We're entering into our, I said, remember it was spring forth? It was spring up and spring forth, because we were springing ahead. It was that time of year. And I just felt it's time to, it's a creative season where all that's been,
and little did you know,
all that we've learned up to that point, it's now time to start writing about it, singing about it.
Well, it's that whole word. You've been set up for such a point, like a period is or a time as this, or whatever the word was. And I go, wow.
Yeah, all of it.
All this has been prep, and I totally agree. I think it's uncanny that the timing cannot be
can't be understated.
Yeah, it can't be lost on anybody. That was a crazy word.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely time for us to start taking the lyric, putting song, pen to paper, and start writing melodies, songs, and sounds that are going to be sung that from our house that I believe are just going to take, and they're going to just
and carry people. This is where, for me personally, it's often a song. I know I'm musical, so I gravitate towards music in difficult seasons, but I would say most people do. There's something about a melody, there's something about a song or an anthem.
There's a breakup song.
Oh my gosh, Thanksgiving time.
Come on.
Yeah, you're like, yes, I need Kelly. I need her in my life.
That's
or
funny.
Taylor, you need to shake it off. And you're like, yes, shake off the haters. We have anthems and we have songs that we go to when we need that anthem. And I believe that we are going to write anthems that are going to carry people through seasons, carry people through the storms, carry people
And so it's just sitting in the presence of God. To me, what I see is our teams just man, like an extra focus on prayer in this season.
Yeah.
And just communion with
Digging
God.
deep.
And I see us just creating and innovating through the Holy Spirit's inspiration in this season. Just kind of like hearing melodies from heaven, you know? And so music's gonna be a major part, and really what we wanna do is really put focused effort on continuing to create content on that front. I think that our creative teams have done an incredible job.
Yes.
And they've been putting out some, as far as I'm concerned, world-class worship experiences throughout the pandemic from none of them together, each of them separated in their own homes, having to stir their own faith, you know? Again, there's that togetherness where you can get you can just vibe one another in that
You're
synergy.
having a tough week, but the other one's not, so together it lifts the room. We didn't have any of that.
And I'm blown away by the level of excellence and the heart that was displayed in that. I think that now it's time to keep doing that, but now try to sprinkle in there and pepper in there some of our own sounds, some of our own songs that will be sung from
exciting.
here to across the world. But yeah, so there's media, there's music, and I think the last one is a place to house all of the many streams of activity. I think that 9 years in, as a church, we really believe that the days are now done where we are at the discretion of, the lender, if you will, the landlords, whoever. I think it's time for us to become landlords, the ones that, a house to facilitate the favor of God that is across our ministry, that would house all the many streams of activity from kids ministry from junior high and generations, youth, young adults, to city care initiatives, to our Sunday services and our midweek services, a place where we can have offices, a place where we can build out studios and continue to create content and curate stuff for our social media.
This sounds like a church building.
It basically is.
This sounds like a home.
Yeah. That's what we're basically saying. So we're believing God for venues, and I think it's time, in our 10th year, to really start believing God for that, and not just be sitting. Especially in this season, I think that we've been very much, we've been very limited in what we're able to do because of the fact that we don't own our own facility. And I think that, Jules, you were even intimating, thoughts around that to me earlier.
I had a dream about it for sure, where it was a couple months ago, and there was team painting, there was team in every room of this venue, big warehouse space. And I just said to somebody on team, I said, aren't you glad we persevered? Aren't you glad we dug in our heels through that difficult, that dark season where it's like, God, where are you? What are you doing? What's happening with the church? What's happening with our house? What's the way forward? Aren't you glad we remained? Because look at what was on the other side. And so I do believe there's a great promise on the other side of this in the way of venue.
And that's why I think it's so imperative that people in this season, just like Christ, who endured the cross for the hope that was set before him, or the joy that was set before him.
Yes.
There was a reward on the other side of a very challenging season. In his case, a very, the cross itself.
The hope of the world.
Yeah, and I think that in this season, I'd be encouraging people just to simply consider that, Jesus had a word from God, he was going to reconcile the world to himself, and create a way where there was no way. And I think that God in this season is going to do just that as well. I think that each of us need to keep in mind that, there is a joy that is set before us, a joy of having our own facilities to go, wow, I'm so glad I didn't throw in and resign my faith when it came under fire. I pushed through this season, that I held on to the priorities despite the pressure that I found myself under. And
God's promise over our house, because this has been promised on multiple occasions. Where he said you're going to get something for wood that's going to quickly turn to gold, so the value's going to go up, whatever God gives you. I equally think on the other side of this season, Pastor Steve also declared the Great God Gathering has begun. So we're in it now. It's not like, after this COVID, whatever is over, we're going to see the gathering. But I believe people are going to gather to the house. We're going to need space. We're just going to practically, thanks babe, need space and a room to house all the people. Oh, the password. She's watching YouTube. Here you go. We're going to need space to house the many people that are going to actually come streaming in because of the streams, because of the online platform, because the word's going to go out to people we'd never reach. When we go live and when we gather, it's going to be
explosive.
It's going to be unbelievable. People are going to come from the highways and the byways. I feel like I'm a Pentecostal preacher.
She can't even contain her excitement. She's like, I can see it.
I so can see it. And we're going to be like, who are you? And they're going to say, I've been with you for eight months now, and this is my house now. And we'll be meeting long lost wandering family members and finally welcoming them in,
Yeah.
say like, you're home, like,
Yeah, totally.
and to be able to say, this is our
Hey, buddy.
home. Ah.
Yeah, that sense of permanence.
Oh, and I just want Chip and Joanna to be there and say, what do they say at the end? They're like, are you ready to see your
new fixer-upper?
Yeah. And I want
is this like an
them, I want them
extreme
to
home
roll.
makeover?
Yeah, I
the
want them to
fixer-upper.
roll.
Come on, bro.
And I want to cry.
Really?
No. I don't know it.
No way. Oh.
No, never seen
Chip is like, gosh,
Yeah, and
I love Chip.
I think that for our house, though, just to throw something in there,
Yeah.
God spoke to us many years ago, like as our physical, like home ownership and how we move
Yeah.
house, it's going to mirror in so many ways the
Yes.
journey and the process of the church itself.
Yeah.
And obviously this year we became landowners and became homeowners for the first time
This
in many
is
years.
like a
And it's-
contended promise.
And yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I really believe that, much of what we're believing for, I think the enemy has stuffed some wells of inheritance in our
Yeah.
in our lives
Mhm.
and in the life of our ministry that we've had to contend for and redig.
Yeah.
And then equally, I think that this is going to look like digging some new wells, and I think that the venue is very much a part of that. It's been a hot contention,
Yeah.
in the life of our house
Yeah.
to try to believe God for. And I think I got faith for it. It's time.
It's time.
It's time for us
Yeah.
to put a stake in the ground of
Yeah.
permanence to say, now God,
Yeah.
we're believing that you're gonna, keep us around for a lifetime
Yeah.
and leave a legacy that's gonna shake the earth.
Totally. And I would say that our house and our people are with us in this probably more than ever, just because of what has been the last 9 months.
Yeah, right.
Like everybody's alert and awake to, we need a home. We need a space that's ours. It's time to step into ownership. And so, like never before, I believe everyone's faith is stirred for this.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's time.
In for everyone, like what would be your encouragement to our church, like to the people in our church?
Yeah. I mean, we've been we've been talking about the promises, the things that God has said over our lives, over our house.
I mean, if you look at
And
the
we're
words.
holding on to them, right, for dear life in this season. I would say it's the promises that have given us hope in the midst of what has been this last season. It's like, gosh, that's what's carried us through. And I would say the same to the individual, to
I think that,
one on the other side.
we always, I've pastored a whole lot of people through this season, and obviously we've all had our own interactions with people. And I think that one of the greatest things that I've taken great comfort in is having words in advance that help give you great comfort to help outwork and walk out your season.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing I would encourage everyone is to look across their own lives. If there's anything to take away from the life of our house and our ministry, we've always been a Spirit-led ministry. We've always been a ministry that is very much consulting and listening and leaning into what God is saying.
Yeah.
And so I would say this to people, hey, I get this has been a challenging season. I get this has probably been very difficult for many. It's had financial, struggles and relational struggles, and there's been all kinds of, sickness and struggle that could mark the year. But God has said to us, it's not just about what you're seeing. I think it's equally about what God's been saying.
Yeah.
And God's been saying, no, I'm going to crown this year with his goodness. And even the hard paths will drip with abundance. And so I look at that and I simply go, okay, I would encourage people to keep their faith in this season, to know that if it's not good just yet, it's because God is he's just not done yet.
Yeah.
And I believe the silver lining on the other side of this whole season is going to be God coming through in a powerful way, not only for the life of our ministry and our house, but for those who call our house home, and anyone who calls my church home. And so that's what I believe is I'd say to people, believe God for your word.
Yeah.
And if you don't have one, ask him for one. Dig into the word of God itself and get something that jumps off the pages to you and hold on to it.
Yeah.
And know that God will work all things together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose. I think that is the greatest consolation, the greatest comfort that we can draw from this season is that God is going to, whether this was intended in the heart of God, I don't believe that is true. I think he could still use it.
Yeah.
And so, and he can work all things together for the good. So I'd encourage people to say, hey, listen, remain steadfast in the season. Keep your faith. Hope's up. Best is yet to come.
These are important days. The magnificence of what God has planned for his church, if we saw it or heard it, it would blow our minds. But it is fast coming upon the church. The God gathering has begun. He will gather people out of every tribe and tongue, every nation. He'll gather resource and finance supernaturally in and through your lives for the purpose of the kingdom. And Father, I declare that. Let this be a super prosperous church, generous in every way. Let that blessing and favor flow out into many ministry opportunities, both in this city, this nation, and beyond. May they become legendary for that which they invest in, beyond just their own interests, simply for a generosity spirit to be expressed. Let that be upon the houses and the homes. Father, I pray for this company of people tonight. And we declare multitudes, we declare leaders and rulers of this nation and this city will be drawn into the house supernaturally. And we declare miracles across the city, supernatural miracles. People that are declared dying shall come miraculously back to life and be healed by the power of God. And their testimony will literally be featured in newspapers and publications in the city. And great shall be the testimony of the righteous in the house. Bless each one. Bless their families. Bless the marriages. Bless the courtships. Bless the children. Bless their finance. And may they continue to know how to make a comeback in every season, in Jesus' name.